If you're 40 or 50 and you're starting to make big plans and looking forward to those post-work years and all the adventures you're going to have, I'm here to tell you that waiting until you are retirement aged is a huge mistake. In this video, we're going to paint the honest picture as to why, if you're middle-aged, it's later than you think. Maybe much later than you think. I'm Elliot.
And I'm Megan, and we're taking the midlife leap into a better way of living on our terms.
Join us on our journey away from the paycheck and toward living with passion and purpose in our middle years. I want to give you the cold, hard facts that nobody seems to be talking about regarding retirement, so we can hopefully change the way you think about life after your current career. If you stay to the end, I'm going to share something with you that might just change the way you think about retirement in general. Here's the truth. If you retire when most people in the developed world do, you actually have precious few years, if any, left of life as you know it. But let's use data to tell this story, because I think you'll be convinced way more by the statistics than anything that I could say. There are three figures that give you everything you need to know. Number one, average retirement age. In the US, it's 65.7 years. In Canada, it's a little bit less than that, 64.5 years. In the UK, it's 66. In all three of these countries, it's set to rise 2 to 4 years in the next 15 to 20 as life expectancy goes up. So for this exercise, let's use an average retirement age of 68 years old. Number two, vitality rate. So what the heck is a vitality rate? Basically, it's the percentage of people who are strong, active, and what you would consider full of energy. Your vitality rate, your vitality score, gives us a really good sense of your quality of life. If you're in good health, you're free from serious illnesses, and you're able to perform all your regular daily activities without any big limitations, you'd have a high vitality score. Vitality score is a combination of things. It's biomarkers like blood tests. It's physical assessments like your walking speed and your grip strength. And then it's some self-reported stuff about how you say you feel. Well, here's the data on vitality rates in the US. They're pretty consistent until your late 50s. And then notice how it just kind of falls off a cliff in your late 60s. As this figure falls, you start to reduce a lot of activities. You prefer to stay home when you can. You prefer to take fewer risks. You maybe travel less because you want to be close to your family and your doctor, for example. But let's put a pin in that for a second, and let's talk about number three, the death rate. Death rate is pretty obvious, right? It's the portion of people across all causes of death that don't escape their age group. Notice that sudden upward trajectory at ages 65 to 74. And the way to read this is actually to add up all the figures beneath that age group. So, for example, to answer how many people don't live past 65 to 74, it's 32%, not 15%. But there's another sobering thing the data is telling us. Death rates are removed from the vitality rates. In other words, you have to be alive to report your vitality. So it's fair to say that a third of us won't live past our early 70s, and among those left, only 75% will have a good quality of life. So it's fair to say somewhere in your late 60s, only half of us will be alive and feeling good. For now, let's just add a cherry on top. And let's repeat that average retirement age number we talked about, 68. Therefore, exactly when you retire, if you're average, 49% of us are now dead or falling off that statistical cliff. How do you feel about your post-retirement plans now? You're basically dealing with a coin flip. Would you want to bet the enjoyment of your retirement years on a coin flip? I don't think so. I wouldn't want to. The point is, this notion of waiting until retirement to travel and explore new creative outlets and just have new adventures, it may seem practical, I mean, after all, the later you push this stuff, the more money you have to do it, right? It just seems like a game of Russian roulette to me when it's that 50-50 coin flip. If you're 45, 50, 55, it's later than you think. So when you hear all of this, you might be thinking, yeah, no worries. I'll squeeze some of this, some of these bucket list items into the years leading up to my retirement, and I'll knock them off one at a time. So let's do the math on that too while we're in math mode. Okay, let's say you're turning 50 this year, and you have the ability to use all your vacation and personal days, which, by the way, many don't. But in Canada and the US, that's typically 10 days a year. But assuming you're deep in your career, you're probably at 4 weeks a year. So obviously, not every day of your days off are you going to be doing something fulfilling. There's going to be duty days when you're cleaning the gutters, or you're doing your taxes, or you're binge watching something embarrassing on Netflix, or you're sick in bed. So let's reduce that annual number by, I don't know, a third. And so now we're sitting at 20 calendar days a year for you to knock off those bucket list items. If we add up those 20-day years from ages 50 to 68, that's 360 days. That's 1 year. So through very good and diligent planning, you've managed to scrape together 1 more year before you fall off that statistical cliff we talked about. Clearly, if the goal through all of this is to save some of those good years for yourself at the end of your work, then trying to squeeze that time in while you're still working just doesn't cut it. Now, if that's a little bit depressing, I get it, and I agree. But it's the truth. You actually don't have much time, or as much time as you think you do. But let's turn all that negative sentiment around and let's use it as motivation to seriously think about how flawed the idea is of retiring at that standard retirement age. How risky it is to put off living your best life. It's that statistical coin flip. So here's an alternative: the mini retirement. Tim Ferriss, in his massive best-selling book from about 15 years ago called The 4-Hour Workweek, introduced that idea of a mini retirement, where you have a chance to recharge your battery and reinvent yourself before heading back into work, probably with a renewed enthusiasm. I love the idea, and we're living it. Mini retirements are a way to recalibrate what you're doing in favor of what you want to be doing. So it may be too early to fully retire, but who's to say that at 50, 55, 60, it's too late for a recalibration? Obviously, for many people, the first thought that springs to mind is, I can't afford to quit working. It's the reason I'm still working. The math doesn't lie. The bills keep coming. And you might be right, and I respect that. And by the way, if you love your work and it's in line with your passions and it's also paying to support your future retirement, great. Skip to the next video. This isn't for you. However, if you're like a huge portion of the population that are just daydreaming about something else and are sitting refreshing their browser all day long to look at their stock portfolio to see if they're closer or further to financial freedom, consider this. Take a pre-retirement break. And I don't mean a sabbatical where you come back to the same old desk in 6 months or a year. I mean quit and jump squarely into whatever's next. I mean boldly trusting in your own ability to adapt and grow and reinvent yourself, and hopefully to reinvigorate your senses so you're not counting the days to retirement. I see this as taking hold of the third act of your life and getting yourself free of the oppression of the busy. And I think in doing that, new ideas and new opportunities have space to open up for you. Here's another thing to consider. I mentioned in the opening that I had a fresh idea that might just change the way you think about retirement. Cognitive decline as we age. I think we all understand that with age, cognitive decline becomes a limiting factor. It impacts our memory, our concentration, and our just overall richness of life. I've certainly seen it in my family and in their friends of that generation. Cognitive decline, according to this chart, is a pretty straight line throughout our lives. However, according to studies, there are several things you can do to help slow this line and maintain your cognitive function. These are things that are within your control. Maybe you can't stop it altogether, but if you could extend those senior years where loss of memory and brain function aren't affecting your daily life and your relationships to any great degree, you'd probably do it. And look, I'm not qualified to give medical advice, obviously. But what the Googles seem to say about it is right after sleep and exercise, the biggest contributor to cognitive decline is being disengaged from a social circle, which is, of course, what happens immediately after you exit your work life. All those people, all those things that happen during a day that keep you sharp and engaged and feeling like you're contributing go away. And I think a lot of people will tell you that at least for a period of time after they retire, there's a time where they just feel lost and a little bit useless and kind of like a boat without a rudder. To me, this underscores the importance of perhaps keeping your finger in the economy as you get older. So whether that be doing some lightweight part-time work that you really enjoy, or some passion project that doesn't pay much, but it pays a little bit at least. Maybe, just maybe, we should not be thinking about how and when to stop working, but how and when to transition away from work that we don't love towards work that we love. From that perspective, the pre-retirement break is actually a necessary pivot point from work that's sucking the life out of you towards work that's breathing life into you. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. Assuming you watch this because you're looking forward to the next stage in your career or of your life, check out this video up here for some inspiration. I think you'll like it.